down to -11 overnight, a warning of -15 in exposed areas. It's already the coldest winter for 15 years in many parts of the south, and the problem now isn't the snow, but the ice. With no let-up in sight, there's growing concern about the suffering that the cold weather will cause. For the elderly, there's increasing hardship. For the homeless, misery on the streets, and mounting fears about the toll the freezing nights might exact.
The news is full of, tragedies of people dying in the snow. Homeless people have the worst time of their lives in weather like this.
Home owners are suffering too. Frozen pipes were blamed for an explosion that ripped through this bungalow in Wiltshire. They caused the boiler to overheat and build up too much pressure.
Good morning, AA Home Assistance Services. How may I help you?
The AA's emergency home watch system, which provides services like plumbers and electricians, has had 1,400 calls in the last 2 days. And business has never been better for this Kent firm, which specialises in hiring out heating equipment.
The high desk literally has had people almost crying down the phone, desperate for some sort of assistance, where the heating has gone off from the old lady who's sitting there with no heating, old people's home or even private houses as such.
The weather's been causing havoc across Europe. One French newspaper today estimated that more than 200 people had died since the cold spell began. Roads have been treacherous, and 12,000 railway passengers have been stranded in the Rhone Valley. Tim Ewart, ITN.
We're going live now to our science editor Lawrence McGinty, who's at an emergency call-out centre for plumbers and heating engineers in the West Midlands. Lawrence.
Nick, this is in fact one of the busiest centres like this in the country, indeed in Europe. It's open 24 hours a day, and it can call on 2,500 tradesmen who handle all kinds of household emergencies: plumbing, heating, locks, glazing, or almost anything. With me now is the appropriately named Eddie Helps, who runs this centre. Eddie, tell us, how busy have you been over the Christmas period?
We've been extremely busy. We covered over 11,000 calls over the Christmas period, which is about 60% up on the same time last year.
And what kind of things are people calling you about?
Majority of the call-outs have been to do with heating and plumbing, as you would expect. Plumbing is not at its worst yet. That will happen when the currently frozen pipes start to thaw.
And how do we compare as a country with other countries in Europe?
Well, of course, we're not quite geared up to these Arctic temperatures. Our houses are not designed and not lagged sufficiently for these sort of temperatures for this amount of time. And therefore, we suffer much worse than our European counterparts.
And how does this cold snap compare with others in previous years?
Well, last year we had a cold snap over the January, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. It was much shorter and not for over the whole country.
So you're expecting to be busy in the next few days as well?
Well, the Weather Centre predict that the thaw will start on Monday, and if they're correct, then we expect from Monday lunchtime onwards that plumbing and heating companies will be at a premium again.
OK, so if you are expecting to have a burst, although one never does, get your calls in quickly. Nick, back to you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Now for news of sport, live to our reporter Peter Staunton. Peter, you're at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace's ground in South London. What's happening there?
Not a lot, Nick. The least surprising news from here is that tomorrow's game between Palace and Leeds is off. A local referee came here earlier in the morning, and he took one look at the pitch, really, spent about 10 minutes looking around. This is what he found: sheet ice on the perimeters of the pitch. Once they cleared that off, he took a look underneath it and got the old keys out like Geoffrey Boycott does. Tried to get the keys into the ground, absolutely solid. No chance of a game tomorrow. It would be too dangerous for the players, simple as that.
And lots of other weekend fixtures at risk as well?
Already 8 FA Cup games off. That joins 4 second division and 4 third division games that are already off. Racing has been badly affected as well. There are more postponements to come. Who knows where it's going to end?
Now the football pools panel will be back in action, Peter. Who's on that? How does it work?
It's been going since 1963, the very bad winter of '63. It's a 4-man panel. The 4 of them will go into a locked hotel room in Manchester tomorrow, and on the basis of the form book, they'll be deciding what the results of these games, these postponed games, might have been. 2 of England's ex-World Cup heroes on that, Roger Hunt and Gordon Banks. They'll be deciding on who might have won these games, who might have lost, and more important, which of the score draws.
Very chilly Peter Staunton there. Thank you very much indeed.
It's not just Britain that's suffering from extreme weather. Rain and melting snow has left a trail of destruction across the west of the United States. Ben Scotchbrook reports.
Welcome to a hotel in California. Northwest America has been struggling with horrendous winter weather since Christmas, and now the snow is melting, causing misery. 200 National Guard troops are helping over 2,000 tourists, workers and families stranded in this Californian park alone. Around the state, rescue services are working flat out.
We did a couple of evacuations after dark last night. We're starting now to see, and they're going to start running in buses and trucks and any other people that want to be evacuated to shelters.
Rescue will not be easy. The worst floods for 40 years have demolished roads and brought down power lines. 14 deaths have been blamed on the storms, and insurers are preparing for a total claim of over $250 million. California, Nevada and Washington states are all underwater, and while people try to hold back the tides, flood warnings are still in force for 14 rivers around Washington alone. Ben Scotchbrook, ITN.
John Major today pledged to